Well, here at the Taxpayers Union, we're all about having taxpayer and ratepayers' money spent efficiently. We know that it's not, of course. I'm recording this podcast on the day it's revealed that the outgoing Chief Executive of Health New Zealand, who resigned her job, is being paid out to the end of her contract until June, and she's had her fees paid for a director's course after she had resigned. That is just one example of unnecessary taxpayer spending. I mean, it's laughable. One guy who's making a real name for himself, exposing a lot of this, is David Baker. David, great to have you with us here on Taxpayer Talk. I have to admit that until last week, I'd never heard of you. But then I listen around, I look around, and it seems in the last few weeks you've been everywhere. You've been on RCR, you've been on the platform, you've got your own TikToks, you've got your own Instagrams. You make a lot of noise about government and local authority and efficiency, don't you? Why?
Oh, mate, I mean, I'm 32 now, and I've been, coming up through the ranks of, starting to pay tax and property owners, so paying rates. And, it just guts you when you pay this extortionate amount of money to people and then you see it being wastefully mistreated. And I've been in business since I was 23. I think I'm on my fifth venture now. This is the one that's really taken off. But it's really, really hard to make a good amount of money in this country at the moment. And then when you see all this tax that you're paying to inland revenue every single week or month, and then you read an article online and you find that another person down in Dunedin has quit her job a year ago, or she's been on annual leave for a whole year. And then you look at her salary and it's $350,000. That's gut-wrenching, because I would love to take a year off and get paid $350K. But unfortunately, I'm in this office probably 16 hours a day in whatever country I'm in. So, yeah, it's tough.
All right, so you're talking about the so-called Deputy Chief Executive of Dunedin City Council. Her name is Leanne Mash, and you're right, she's been absent from her desk for a year.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
Who knows what her salary is, but it could be up to $500,000 or $499,000 a year. Anyway, she's not at work, and what's worse is that nobody knows why, or nobody is prepared to say why. Anyway, David, tell us a bit about you. You've been on the tools, but now you're a quantity surveyor.
Yeah.
What does that do?
Yeah, mate. So we essentially, Peter, when I was doing my building business after I did my apprenticeship, I got really, really screwed over by a tier 2 big housing company in New Zealand, lost, into the six figures, 120,000. It took me a long time to pay that back, but I literally just went back to pricing $6,000 to $20,000 jobs really, really well between Auckland and Queenstown. And I just wanted to know every single cost of the job. So I didn't go through traditional quantity surveying school. I had my own building business, and then I was just making it, a goal to myself to know every single cost on every job, where I was losing money and where I was making money, and then how could I keep refining that. So fast forward 5 years, COVID was horrible, but the best thing about COVID for me was it was a forced 8 weeks off, and I could really niche into my skill of pricing. So I started, at this time, my building business was probably pricing 30 to 40 projects a month. And then during COVID, I rang up 10 or 15 other builders in New Zealand and said, hey, if you guys are quiet, you need a hand with pricing, let me know. They would send me plans. I would price their projects. And then I very quickly realized and got told by a good mentor, he just said, mate, the skill you have is second to none. So I think you should really dive in on this quantity surveying stuff. So fast forward another 4 years, 32 now, we're doing 90 to 100 reports a month in New Zealand, 100 reports in Australia, and we've just started in the United Kingdom. So we're looking to take this thing global. And I've told everyone at the company I want to spend more time repricing these government and council projects, and they're all on board with it. So here we are.
All right. We know two things in this country. One is we have a housing shortage, and two, costs to build houses are going up exponentially. I know that myself. In the last 5 years, myself and my wife have built, let's say, 2 houses, one in Wanaka, one out in the country. The cost per square metre for those houses went up between builds. So,
do you roughly know, Peter, what you paid for your Wanaka house?
About 7.
If you don't mind sharing.
About 7,000. Yep. 7,000. Yeah, but you would not build anything in Wanaka now, I don't think, for under 10.
Nah, no way. It's we will do concept pricing at 7,500, and then by the time we get full working drawings, it's usually rounding out about 8.5 to 10K. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's good to get that, because those Kaingoa houses in Rotorua were 22,000 a square metre.
Yeah, we're going to come to those. We're going to come to those. But tell me why then, because we just finished a project at our new place last year, a more modest build, but the cost per square metre was about the same, not to the same high specs as we built in town. We're out in the country now, so it was it's a garage with a few extra rooms added on, but the cost per square metre was about the same. Therefore, in 5 years, you go to a lower spec house, a lower spec building, but the price has gone up effectively since, say, 2020 or 2021. Take out inflation. Why is that? What's the problem? What's driving things?
Oh man, I mean, I don't know if we can really blame materials for everything. Now, some people are probably going to come and bite back there, but I mean, I'm still pricing with a sheeted jib at $18.50 a sheet. Labour rates have actually pulled back a bit at the moment because it's a little bit quieter. Skip bins have gone up drastically. I used to get a 9 cubic metre skip bin in central Auckland for my office for $320 a bin. I believe now you can't get one for under $550. And man, the council application and processing fees are insane. But yeah, it is interesting because I feel like Labour's actually pulling back a little bit on costs. Materials aren't as bad depending on the spec, but yeah, the red tape for me is the killer, Peter. It's the amount of consultants that are needed to sign something off or get something started, and just resource consent, building consent fees, and it's like, why are these going up all the time?
Labour prices don't appear to be too bad. I mean, our job last year was charged out at $70 an hour, which was only, I think, about $5 an hour more than what was the going rate in town 5 years ago. Yeah, we did some building when we lived in Auckland, and our man there was charging us $55 an hour. So, in other words, the hourly rate does not appear to have gone up a heck of a lot. I mean, what's the going rate for an hour in Auckland these days for a builder?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, maybe 18 months ago, we were easily pricing maintenance jobs out at $85 to $95 an hour. But I would work all on fixed price. But right now, with this market, man, you'll get back down to 55, 65 an hour because Auckland is very, very tight. But yeah, honestly, Peter, it is really bad because Labour has pulled back, definitely, which is bad for builders because, I mean, these guys are the most lowest paid subbies almost, but they've got to put a 20-year license on these houses. If you have an issue, you just call your builder back now and he's got to come back and fix it, or you can complain to the board, you know. So what I don't understand is if there's an issue with a build, and you've still got to go through the council and sign it off, who's the one that has to take all the accountability and fix it? It's the builder. So why does the council step in and charge a fee and sign stuff off? There's a few things there that I don't agree with.
Yeah, because once you get a CCC, the Code of Compliance certificate, that says the council believes that this is a good house. Yet, as we knew 20 years ago, during the so-called leaky buildings crisis, buildings got their CCCs. The owners then went to the council and said, well, hey, you said this was compliant. You said it was going to work. It's not working. You're responsible, aren't you? Yet the councils just ran for the hills and wouldn't pay up. So it's pretty weak legislation that allows councils to offer CCCs but not really take any responsibility for it.
Yeah. So because I asked Duncan the same question, and what do you do about that? Like, my key point on that was, I can go around and make all these TikToks and do these Instagrams and talk with, people like yourself. But what is the next step? Like, what do you do from here? How do you get someone in power to actually make a change and say, cool, every single government project that's going to go forward from this date has to be assessed by an individual QS firm or someone who is going to sign this off and say this is within market rates. Then you use that to go to tender. But what we're seeing at the moment, I believe, and I mean, I don't work in council, I'm just going by what my comments say on socials, but there's just so many backhand deals and contractors friends with people on the councils and the boards, and it's just, yeah, man, hike your price up a little bit here and buy me a bloody Range Rover or a boat or something, and I'll give you this $2 million job. So what do you do?
So do councils and the government departments that are building places like Kaingaora, do they employ QSs on their staff to do this kind of stuff, to go out and price the jobs?
Peter, I call these guys up and try and ask them point blank questions, and I get nothing. All I get is commercial sensitivity, or I can't answer that question right now. I tried to call that guy Darren Toy, who was supposedly the construction project manager for that project in Rotorua, the Kaingaora 22,000 a square, and I couldn't get through to him in the office. I made a TikTok about it. Fortunately, a lovely member of the public sent me his personal mobile number. And I set up my camera, I recorded it, I called it, and he picked up on the first call. Hey, Darren here. I said, hey, Darren, it's David Baker. And I said, I just want to ask a few questions about this project. And, a very simple question was, how much did that project cost? And he said, I can't comment on that right now. And if I ask you, Peter, right now, how much did your house in Wanaka cost? You could tell me right away what it cost, correct?
Yep. I don't know whether or not I'd be prepared to divulge it, but I know what it cost. Yeah.
So, the point is, why could he not give me that figure? Why is it commercially sensitive when it's a public-funded project? Like, why are these costs being withheld from the people? And why do we put up with this? So the answer to your question is no, I don't believe there is anyone internally signing off this stuff. I just think they're getting quotes from contractors, putting it all together as a tender package, and then paying the fees, I believe. But prove me wrong, but it's very hard to get proven wrong by any of these councils or government agencies.
Okay, we'll talk about this project in Rotorua that you've highlighted many times. Now, these are, I guess you call them container homes. So I've seen photos of them. There was a picture in the Bay of Plenty Times from earlier on this year that I've just looked at in the last half an hour or so. So they look like shipping containers that have been painted white. They've had an end cut out of them, windows put in them, sliding doors on the side, and then one is lopped on top of another to give a two-story effect, and then they come in blocks of four. So you've basically got 4 one-bedroom apartments, for want of a better word, in one structure, haven't you? So 4 containers stacked together. And you say those cost $22,000 a square metre to build.
That's exactly that's what I've been.
David, used shipping containers cost about $50,000, don't they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got a second-hand one out here that I bought for $4,000 off Facebook Marketplace, and I got a quote to repaint it for $2,200. Okay. And if I did an interior fit out of that, I would spend a day and a half's labour battening it out for jib linings. I would spend $15 a square metre on insulation, so ceiling and walls. I don't have the number off the top of my head. I would install jib and fit off for probably $35 a square metre, labour and supply. I would do a full fit out of a container at $1,600 a square metre. So, I know if that a shipping container is, say, 35 square metres, times that by 2,000, it shouldn't cost any more than whatever that number comes up at. I'm just spitballing here. But the fact that it can come in at 22,000 is just outrageous. It's too much money, and I'm still digging in on this. And I've done the Legima request, but it is the most pathetic Legima request I've ever seen. For a $630,000 job here at Rapid QS at my quantity surveying firm, you will get a minimum of 150 line items. Now, Kaingaora sent me back a 5 line item breakdown for the cost of these shipping containers. So tell me where the transparency is,
Well, there was absolutely none. Why did you go through Legima, Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act? Shouldn't it just been Official Information Act full stop? Did you go through the wrong channels or not?
I just did the Legima. I think that's the right one. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I just said I need all the costs for this new build project. I want to see everything from what you paid at Geotech, what your labour rates were, what the cost of the container was, where the containers came from. But I got absolutely nothing. And then the amount of time that I have CC'd in the ombudsman to do that as well, and they just come back and say this isn't a ombudsman related issue. You need to go direct to the council or direct to the firm. But it's very hard to get information.
So who was the contractor for this project in, was it Melfroy Street, I think, in Rotorua, these container homes? So who built them and who finished them off?
Yeah, no, haven't got that information. Didn't get given that in the Legema request, so it's very hard. But thankfully, we have Instagram and TikTok, so I get a lot of people sending messages and saying, "Hey, I was the plasterer on this, or I was the painter, or I was one of the contracted builders." But unfortunately, they won't have the full costings. You know, if they're just one of the people working, they won't have the figures, which is what I'm after, but I can't seem to get. So yeah, it's just like I can do all this work and go and find all these costs, but it's very hard to get past the commercial sensitivity. That's the one thing I can't wrap my head around. Why are they allowed to withhold all this information?
Because we'll come to this other topic of commercial sensitivity in a moment. You found contrasting attitudes towards that concept from varying councils around the country when you talked about potholes. But just finishing off the discussion about these homes in Rotorua, the container homes in Rotorua, this guy Darren Toy, I think he's Kainga Ora's Bay of Plenty regional manager. Do you know anything about his qualifications for that job? Is he a builder? Has he been a QS? Has he been a tradesman?
No.
What does he know?
No building experience. I did remember looking this up on LinkedIn and no former building experience. So that is a real concern. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that every single person working in construction needs to come from that background, because there are group home companies that, employ people that are just, really, really good operators and project managers. But it just all the stars align when you call him and you get him on the phone, and then he can't ask point blank questions. And then you look up his, his credentials, and he hasn't done any building work. He's not a qualified QS. Has he even done a project management course? How did he get hired for this role? And then when he can't give us transparency or answers, it's like, well, yeah, how does this guy have a job? And I got him on the phone, and he couldn't answer any questions. He couldn't give me any rates. He said, I'm not allowed to give that information. And I don't really, I think it's a crock load of shit, actually.
All right. We just looked at our spreadsheet this morning for our project out here last year. Our building consent cost us $4,736 from the Central Otago District Council. From what I hear, that's not a bad price, is it?
That's pretty good. I think I paid 4,100 in Wanganui or Palmerston North for Wanganui or Martin for my latest project. So I think that's reasonable, Peter. You're getting an inspector to come out 4 or 5 times. You're getting stamped plans. They're going through it for sure. I think that's not too bad.
But then you ask the question, you pay rates. Why does the council need to charge fees for services over and above the rates that you already pay?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. And I'm my old man, he's loved all your stuff, by the way, and he was pretty excited that I was talking to you today. But he hates rates, and he bangs on at me whenever I started buying property. He's like, make sure you put money away for the rates, Bill. But I can't understand what the ongoing stuff is with the rates. I questioned a few down in Wanganui, and I said a portion of the rates was going towards bus and public transport. And I said, hey guys, I don't want to be deemed to pay this portion of the rates because I'm never in Wanganui. I don't use the bus and I don't use public transport. And they said, oh no, sorry, it's a part of your rates. You have to pay for it anyway. So I'm always a little bit baffled at what I'm paying for if I'm not actually using it. But it just comes back to the same thing. What do we do? Like, I'm just one person, one voice. How do I actually make a change?
Yeah. Do you think in general that planning departments at councils serve a useful purpose? I mean, if we didn't have them, we'd just have unrestrained building and developments that would not make sense. They'd be built in, completely inappropriate places. So we have to have planning, don't we?
Correct. No, we have. I'll be very straight down the middle here. I think we have to have planning, and I'm very for having quality and someone checking off what has been done. Someone has to be in charge of these regions, these cities, and just ensuring that what is going up, there are people signing this off or, agreeing to a set of rules that, yep, this is a good idea, this is bad. But what it seems to be now is just there's too many people that don't know enough about stuff. But the key thing is there's too many people in these buildings. They're overstaffed, and it's like, how much productivity is one employee at a council actually putting out on a weekly basis? So I'm all for planning. I'm all for opening up subdivisions in certain areas with certain designs and certain specs. And I'm all for having covenants within subdivisions, so we don't have slum housing just turning up in beautiful areas like Wanaka, and where there are places. But I'm not for inefficiencies and potentially people with not enough experience to make those decisions or calls.
Do people in councils? I think we talked about this just before, didn't we? Do people in councils have quantity surveying experience?
No, absolutely not. No, I can tell you right now they absolutely don't.
So what happens? What happens then is that contractors, there might be, what do they call them? RFPs, the request for procurement or whatever, request for proposals. The whole procurement process is just lax. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's you might be talking about RFIs, request of further information for a project to go ahead. Most of the time, that stuff is, if the person understood the plans or read the plans again, the questions would be answered in those RFIs. But I feel like they just shoot back these RFIs to either A, delay the project, or B, they can't read the plans, and then they need to get it clarified by the person again to make sure that they're not putting themselves wrong and they get it in writing. But yeah, the RFI stuff is one that holds up a lot of timelines. And I just don't think enough of these council people have got enough experience. My final inspection was a lovely lady down in Martin, but yeah, I'm just like, respectfully, she hasn't done any building stuff, and it was very hard to get stuff signed off because she had no clue what she was talking about. She was just following a checklist,
And she was the council building inspector, unquote.
Correct. Yeah, she was.
And she was the one in the end who issued the CCC for you.
Yeah, correct. But it was a painful 1.5 hours with her going around picking up all the stuff that isn't really relatable to a practical completion,
But I just don't get how somebody who's not a builder maybe has got no qualifications and I don't know who this person is or what her actual qualifications or experience was, but if she's never been a builder, never been a draftsperson or an architect, how can they be qualified to issue a CCC? Because that is the most important document you can have with a building, isn't it?
Correct. You can't get insurance until you get a CCC. Legally a tenant's not allowed to move in really until you get that. You couldn't live in the house because if it fell over or if anything, you've got no insurance. So you are right. A CCC is the most important document. And I don't know how these people are getting these jobs. They're obviously just following a checklist. So they're probably saying we've got so many, systems and checklists in place. They don't need to be a builder. They're just essentially going around and checking something and signing it off when they've checked it. But my final answer to that question is I don't think they should be working there if they don't have the experience. I wouldn't go and advertise myself as a quantity surveyor if I didn't know how to price a residential project.
Yeah. You hinted before that builders see a council or a government job and they think, well, we know that there'll be no cost control on this project, so we will just put in a price that is ridiculous and there's every chance it's going to get accepted. Is that happening much?
I think that is like the common trend, but there's a two-part answer to this question. One, I think the government tender process gets government tenders. We do a lot of work for certain contractors that want to move into the space, education or Ministry of Works, stuff like that. There is a lot of ongoing business there, and people see that as like a bit of a safety net for their business. Revenue won't drop, but it is quite a high barrier to entry. You've got to have a lot of health and safety, a lot of internal processes within the business. Sometimes that could cost a business. We priced personally for a guy in Northland last year probably $100,000 worth of education work. He said prior to us coming in and helping him with the GETS tenders, it took him well over 2 years to get his first government GETS tender. So he could have invested anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000. But now that he's in the door, he's getting a lot of that repeat business. So what I think happens over time is as you get your foot in the door, people get a little bit comfortable. It's like if I was using the same painter over and over again, 2 to 5 years, he would probably know that he's going to get the next job when a quote tender comes in. So he'll just hike his prices up a little bit and a little bit. And then the other part of the answer to that question is, it could literally just be whoever's on the board, or say Darren Toy handing out these projects. He's got a mate who's a builder, and he'll say, hey man, down at the pub on a Friday, hey, I'll get you this tender for these houses, slap your prices up a little bit, and we'll do a little bit of a kickback my way. So I don't know if that's true or false, but that's kind of the two ways that I see it happening, if that makes sense.
How much of that do you think actually goes on? Because I know that, well, in Christchurch, there was a famous case, wasn't there? Guys who worked for the earthquake rebuild agency were getting kickbacks during some of the projects that went on there. And they obviously lost their jobs. I think they might have even done some prison time. If not, then a big fine. But that was quite a famous case 10 or so years ago, and I don't have the details off the top of my head. But how much of that?
I'll look that up.
How much of that do you believe goes on even today?
Man, hard one to answer because I don't have any hard, solid proof. But two things I do know is whatever I've done to get our business to where we're at today, I read every single comment across all of our platforms. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Gmail, everything. And the common trend is check a councilor's CEO or whoever's the project manager of a project, and then always go have a look on their social media profile, see who their kind of friends are, have a look at another company, check them up on the director's company's office, and usually you can find some sort of a link between someone who works in council and a general contractor that is just giving them so much work. So I don't have any hard proof or hard evidence, but I look at the comments all the time, mainly TikTok, and it's literally, everyone just seems 70% of the comments on these council videos are kickbacks or mates with someone in the council, contractor is a friend, has a contact. So, I'm all about word of mouth business. I think that's good for the private sector, but when I think it comes to the public sector and education work and council work, it's literally got to be like a cost analysis of price. It shouldn't be there to ream the public. Obviously, people need to make money. A business needs to make money, but some of these costs are outrageous.
Yeah. You been in Queenstown lately?
Not lately, but I am due to go down there soon.
Okay, so when you were last there, did you get off the plane and drive into town past the construction at the roundabout at the BP station there, just up from the airport?
I think I know. Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so it's a 4-year project, David. 4 years to fix an intersection, which heaven knows how it's going to turn out. It's $250 million, and that's a well-publicised figure. But I had a guy working here in January who was putting down a concrete driveway for me. And during his time working at my place, he told me that he was also doing some concreting work on that roundabout project in Queenstown. And you'll enjoy this as somebody who's, about efficient use of time. He said he had a toolbox meeting. That was an expression I hadn't come across before, but apparently in your game you have toolbox meetings, do you?
Yep.
Where you discuss. So what's a toolbox meeting?
Toolbox meeting is to, talk about any potential hazards that are going to come up for the day, make a bit of a game plan. I built a lot of panels for Kmart Dominion in Queenstown, and we would have one every day for 50 to 70 people, standing around for half an hour. So
how long would they last? How long would they last?
Oh, anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes.
Okay, so this guy who's a concrete contractor told me he was at a toolbox meeting for the roundabout for 5 hours.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, I was a part of doing well over 200 panels in Dominion at Queenstown down in Kmart, and our concrete guy, when he turned up, he got out of his ute, lit up a cigarette, had some V, and then he started placing concrete, and he was gone within 45 minutes.
Concrete places they work pretty quickly, but my man was just so frustrated. He said, we've been on site for 2 days, and he said, we've done half a day's work.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, every time you drive past a roadwork, like how long did that roadwork take down south of Auckland, just south of Takanini? That was under construction for half a decade. Yeah.
Well, the whole Waikato Expressway, after having lived in Auckland and driven down to Hamilton and Tauranga a lot in the last 10 years or so, or the years between 2010 and 2020, Yeah, the road construction down there was just staggering. That whole Waikato Expressway, the
Yeah,
time it took. In the end, it was about 30 years, wasn't it? Uh,
yeah, it's
yeah.
yeah,
A couple of other matters that you've discussed with other guys. I want to raise the issue as well. That's potholes. You made a legima request to
yep,
various councils about how much it cost to fix a pothole. Now, I think this is
yeah.
an important question, but you got a variety of answers, didn't you? Tell us about that.
Yep. So I am going to shout out Thames Council. They were the most transparent. They gave me the cost of a labourer for 2 hours, a truck vehicle charge, which is amazing because 70% of builders in New Zealand don't charge their vehicles out for jobs, and that costs money. And then they gave me the cost of the hot mix and the asphalt. So they were amazing. There were 4 other councils that gave me some pricing. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it was Northland, Far North Council, Thames Council, Napier, and there was one other, maybe Coromandel, but all the rest came back with commercially sensitive information. And as it's a contractor's lump sum fee, they couldn't release those costs and the contractor doing it because it was commercially sensitive. So Thames Council said it was at no more than $65 to fix a pothole under 400 mil in diameter, and then it jumped up to about 110 if it was over 400 mil in diameter. So shout out them for transparency and letting us know how much it costs to fix a pothole, but shame on all the other councils that didn't want to give me the costs, you know?
Well, I would have thought the cost of fixing a pothole up and down the country would be pretty standard because, give or take a dollar or two an hour for labour, say from
Yeah,
Auckland to some of the
yeah,
lower cost places in New Zealand to live, like Invercargill or the West Coast. Labour price is pretty much the same. The material price is the same. Okay, fuel costs might
absolutely.
be up and down a bit, therefore the running cost of the vehicles might be a bit different, but it should be all in the
Yeah.
same neighbourhood, shouldn't it?
It should be the same. A pothole is a pothole. Like, we price jobs for everyone all over New Zealand. The cost to stand frames on a standard GJ or Classics build house is all the same. The rates are the same. It's anywhere between, a labour-only contract is anywhere between $160 and $210 a square metre. So for a pothole, it should be a lot closer. Absolutely, it is.
Right. Do you guys
Yeah.
do a fair bit of work for GJ Gardner and Classic Homes and the other big builders or not?
No, not really. I think my main angle that I wanted to do when I got into Rapid QS, Peter, was just to work for the residential builder that was essentially building for GJ Gardner. So my angle was I wanted those builders to get out of doing GJ's work because the margins are very, very slim. But it is very good to build a base business, train apprentices. They can sign off a lot of their BCITO units with a house, building a whole house from start to finish. Obviously, less the foundations. But no, our target market is residential builders under 5 staff, probably doing anywhere from $500,000 to $3 million a year in revenue. We like to work directly for them. And my common message to them has always been, don't shy away from the group housing. It's good to keep your boys busy, build systems, build a bit of a culture, have some fill-in work, but you want to be tendering for full fixed price work on the back of that.
So we've got a housing shortage at the moment. We've had a housing shortage in this country, it seems, forever, or certainly for the last 15 to 20 years. We've got an increasing population, mainly being driven through immigration, yet we've got the building industry, particularly in Auckland, in a bit of in some trouble. Guys battling to get work. That doesn't add up
Yeah,
to me. Why?
no, it's shambles. I think money's tight for a lot of people. Yeah, interest rates just come down, and when we see that happen, we definitely see an influx of work coming through. But I potentially think, whenever there's a boom, it's like supply and demand. And when things were booming, there was a high demand for builders. And then as the demand for the builders has tapered off maybe just a little bit, there's less and less builders without work now. Or there was more, say, for example, during COVID, you could put a tender in, or pre-COVID, you could put a price in for a $80,000 extension. And the question was, when can you start? Now it's, I'm getting 3 other quotes. I'll get back to you soon. So, yes, we're still in a housing shortage. I just think there's a little bit less money out there, and there were a lot of builders tendering for one job. Instead of tendering for one, there might be 4 or 5 builders now. So we'll have to see what happens in the market now. But from what I am talking to guys, it's getting a lot busier. But also, we were in Australia 4 weeks ago for a little podcast tour. We did Brisbane and the Gold Coast, and we specifically interviewed 2 crews of Kiwi builders that had moved over. One crew was from Invercargill and one crew was from Auckland. And, it's like the land of prosperity and opportunity in Australia. They just couldn't see themselves getting ahead here in New Zealand building. So they took their families and their business to Australia, and now they're, doing $1 to $3 million homes on repeat. But that's just a bigger market over there. New Zealand is still going okay. It just seems to be the builders that have a good reputation, have been in business longer, and maybe have better marketing systems or reputations. Those guys are still busy.
Yep. The guys in Australia, though, will be working with, I think, lower land prices in general, and also lower product prices, won't they? Their hourly rates might be more or less the same. They're paying more tax, but it's the price of materials there because it's a bigger market, and there'll be bulk buying opportunities, wouldn't there?
Yeah, and there's a lot more opportunity. There's a lot more competition over there, I believe, for materials. I think we're too tapered down with a couple. That's a whole other kettle of fish. I think we're too tight on how many competitors can come in and sell products here. Probably same as the supermarket and the food stuff issues. But we definitely need more competition on materials here. But Australia, a lot more competition.
So Fletchers dominate things here, don't they? Placemakers.
Firth,
all part of the Fletcher's empire. They've got the building materials, they've got the concrete, and they've even got a home building division. So, yet the company still can't make any money, and the share price is pretty useless. So,
that's concerning. I mean, that's just another topic, but it's tough.
All right, let's also talk about this other infamous story about the steps on Milford Beach, because that might have been the thing that actually started you off on this, shall we say, this noisy path that you've taken in the last little while.
It definitely has.
What did you find out about the steps on Milford Beach that cost what? Was it $250,000 to put 4 steps in there?
Yeah, $248,000 or $264,000 or something, but it's just outrageous. And it was my twin brother who said to me, "Hey, mate, I know you've done a lot of concrete work. I reckon you should reprice these. This would be a good marketing angle." So, man, I just went through and looked at the photo online. I didn't bother doing the Lajima request at this stage, so I could still be wrong to this date. But I've had no one reach out and try and correct me. But I just repriced how long I think it would take to box up and install steel, drill starters in, and pour this concrete step. And I had a day and I was very generous. I had a day and a half labour for 3 guys. I allowed some site fencing, some P&G time, some project management, some design costs, etc. I put in concrete cubic meters at whatever, $250 a cubic meter. I worked out all the lineal meters of steel, and God forbid I couldn't come out for more than $45,000 or $55,000 or something. And I just thought, how have the ratepayers been charged $260,000 on this? And I thought I was wrong anyway. I posted it in the evening one night, and I woke up the next day and my TikTok had about 5,000 new followers, about 5,000 or 6,000 likes, and 1,000 comments. And I was just reading all the comments, and that's what really got me going on this escapade of council stuff, because people were just commenting and messaging, "Hey, can you look at this? Hey, can you look at this?" And before you know, I had 50 projects to go and reprice. So I've just been going down the rabbit hole, Peter. But it's been good marketing for the business. Good. I think it's good credibility for me. But it's also interesting, just potentially opening up a can of worms here.
Indeed. How many fixed price contracts are being signed these days between client and builder, or client and contractor?
Right now, it's a lot more fixed price, purely because I think money's a little bit tighter. Banks are requesting those kind of contracts in order to lend to a homeowner. And I think it's a client's market right now versus a builder's market, but there's still a lot of cost plus going on. But I think for cost plus to go ahead, a builder is needed to provide a scope of works, a costing breakdown to know that they're within figure, and then we do like a lot of cost checking for guys during those projects. So, by the time the frames are up, we might do a check-in, see how many labour hours have been spent, check all the material invoices, what's been spent on materials so far. So I would definitely say it's probably 80% fixed price, but back around COVID time, it was probably 40% fixed price.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, both of our jobs were not fixed price, but we trusted
Yeah.
we had the same builder both times, and we trusted him
Yeah.
implicitly, and he's a fantastic tradesman. So there was no
Cool.
issues there. What about government and local authority contracts, though? Are they doing fixed price? Because you keep on hearing about budget blowouts,
Oh,
about overruns. I mean,
yeah.
why do they not
Yeah.
sign fixed price? Why wasn't Dunedin Hospital, for instance, a fixed price contract back in, the Labor government wanted to build that in 2018, didn't they? 2017.
Yeah.
Why wasn't that
you're-
sort of thing done?
Oh, you're 100% right. And if someone can give me the answer, I would love that. I do not know why these things are not fixed price. I don't know how there's so many budget blowouts. But then what if the Takapuna Stairs was a fixed price of $264,000?
But who signed that
And then
off?
I want to know. Yeah, that's exactly my question. So who's signing off a charge-up job, and then who's signing off the fixed price for these outrageous costs? And this is what I'm trying to do. But all I get when I ring these people up, these councils and the Darren Toys and the Leannes and the councils, I don't get anything. I get commercially sensitive, and they can't give it out. So I can't get any information. I need a lawyer to come and say, hey, no, this is wrong. You can, push back on this, or I don't know. What do we do? Because I guarantee if I could see a cost breakdown of those stairs in Milford, I'd be very quickly be able to tell who's in the right or who's in the wrong. But I don't get any information. I get nothing. But if I could get this stuff, I could find out pretty easily.
But you know what's even worse is that I don't think ratepayers in Auckland on the North Shore really care all that much. They've basically given up. I mean, that's how we've come to view local authorities, isn't it? We just shrug our shoulders and say, oh, well, that's just the council for you. They're rip-off merchants, and that's how we see them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Duncan said the same. Well, it's just like I can go and make as many TikToks and go on as many podcasts and talk with as many, good people like yourself, but what is that really going to make a difference? That's my thing. And now I'm definitely not taking a back foot on this stuff, but I'm not putting as much emphasis on repricing these projects because I kind of know it's going to lead nowhere. I'm more just trying to do more of this media stuff, see if eventually I'm going to click with someone that has some power or can do something, and they can say, all right, David, go into this council, look at this one project, see what you can do or see what you can find, and then we'll see if you're good or not. That's kind of what I want. I almost want the opportunity to go and have a look at one project, see the costings, see if it was a fixed price or a charge up, come up with a price and see if I could do it cheaper, go out to contractors, get quotes back, put a tender summary together and say, I could deliver this project at 70% cheaper than what the council had done it for. And then that might give me some credibility. But I still can't get there because no one gives me any information. So I'm just shooting blind.
And the other thing is, I know that you've talked with Rodney Hyde on RCR. Yep. You've talked with Duncan on the platform. You're talking with me here. Okay, we're all old white men and we all just loathe the government inefficiency and local authority inefficiency. How about some of the big boys in the media? You've got your own social media platforms, which is making obviously a lot of noise. But has anybody from, I don't know, what's it called these days? National Radio, RNZ, anybody from one of the big newspaper chains said, David Baker, there's a man making a lot of noise in various quarters. Should we do a big feature on him? We've got a bigger audience than those little piddly-ass media outfits. Why don't we give him a platform? Any sign of that?
Nothing. No one's reached out. No one said anything. And thankfully for you guys, putting me on your platform and helping me get it more exposure is good. And it might just be a matter of time. Like I might just have to keep banging on the door for another year, keep doing what I'm doing. But, I've got a few tricks up my own sleeve. I would eventually like to reignite the Fair Go episode. And we are currently looking internally of doing kind of like a Rapid QS Fair Go style thing. We will fund it ourselves, get our own.
So you guys have got your own video gear and you can set up a little studio because it's dirt cheap to do these days, of course. I know that compared to 40 years ago, getting a couple of cameras from PB Tech and, you can have a green screen background and Bob's your uncle.
There you go. So no, we can definitely do that. We're definitely going to look at putting a show together. I think we're going to come. I'm off to the UK in 2 weeks to kind of just put some effort into our UK business. But I'll be back in August for 3 weeks. We're doing some seminars in Auckland, Christchurch, Melbourne, and Sydney to teach builders how to be better prices. And then I think we're going to do a couple of podcasts. And I said I want to put together a little show segment for this council stuff. And I think that's when we'll get some real traction.
Well, you're doing God's work, David. For a humble chippy, you seem to have stepped onto some big stages.
Yeah, no, it's good fun. I feel like I was always kind of waiting for my calling. I'm just a farm boy from the back of Wanganui, so I'm trying to do what I can and see if I can, do something good. I truly do love New Zealand, but I'll be brutally honest. I am pretty much foreseen as living outside of New Zealand for the last 3 years and for the foreseeable future. I can't really stomach an avocado being $4 to $5. I can go live at my beautiful place in Zadar in Croatia and do tennis, and my grocery bill is $90 a week. Fuel's cheap, tennis is cheap, it's always sunny. I love New Zealand. I'll live in New Zealand when I raise a family, but right now I feel like there's a big fish to fry here, and I'll try and do it offshore, for as much as I can.
Well, you might do it from offshore, but as long as you keep on making an
Correct.
impact here, that's the important thing, isn't it?
No, absolutely. I won't be stopping on this. It's too satisfying now. And the most satisfying bit is when you get someone like Darren Toy on the phone and you literally you can hear him kind of squirm and not know that he knows the answer, but he can't give it to you. That's what is really satisfying.
Keep on banging on the door, David, and making a loud noise. I love what you're doing. Good luck with the QS business on the side as well. I hope your boys, your women, your staff are keeping the cash flow up, and that you stay afloat and that you keep on do the real job. But in the meantime, the advocacy work you're doing is really important. So thanks for talking to us here on Taxpayer Talk, and good luck, my friend.
Cool. Thank you very much, Peter. Pleasure talking to you.